Welcome back to our channel, where we explore the deeper meanings of life and the wisdom that guides us through it. Today, I want to share a simple yet powerful truth about family, especially the irreplaceable bond between parents and their children. It's a story about love, sacrifice, and the priceless moments we often take for granted. Let's take a moment to reflect on what it truly means to appreciate and honor our parents while we still can. Life is ever-changing for every individual, a constant dance between moments of peace and happiness and phases filled with sorrow, frustration, and unease. It's safe to say that suffering is an unavoidable part of the human experience, regardless of one's social status. From powerful rulers to humble laborers, from the elite to the working class, no one is immune. Even seasoned spiritual practitioners, who appear to have left worldly concerns behind, are not entirely free from inner struggles. What sets people apart, however, is how they respond to these challenges. The ability to understand, process, and transform suffering reveals the difference between those with deep wisdom and those simply drifting through life. According to Buddhist philosophy, life is a vast ocean of suffering in which beings endlessly struggle, searching for the shore. As we journey through this impermanent human existence, sorrow often outweighs joy. The old saying, "Blessings rarely come twice, but misfortunes never come alone," reminds us of how unpredictable life can be. And remarkably, even as one nears the end of life, anxiety and regret still seem to outweigh peace and serenity. So why do we continue to carry even more burdens when our hearts are already too full? In this episode of Life Philosophy, we'll explore 7 key principles, simple yet powerful, that can help older adults release their mental suffering and find lasting peace of mind. 1. Awareness and acceptance of the natural order, applying right view to overcome suffering. In a small village, there lived a wealthy family that had prospered for 3 generations. They owned hundreds of acres of farmland and employed dozens of workers. Their fortune was vast, and they were further blessed with 3 strong, handsome sons. Life seemed perfect, until tragedy struck. The eldest son died in a cart accident while delivering rice to a nearby village. The mother collapsed upon hearing the news, screaming her son's name in unbearable grief. But the misfortunes didn't end there. The second son died of a terminal illness, and the youngest soon followed due to a similar accident. The elderly couple, now left with no heirs, felt as if the sky had fallen on them. They had spent a lifetime accumulating wealth, only to lose what mattered most. What use was gold when the heart is hollow? The mother, overwhelmed by sorrow, chose to enter a monastery, despite her husband's protests. To her, life had lost all meaning. Money couldn't buy peace. When she shared her pain with the abbot, she broke down again, unable to hold back the flood of tears. Seeing her anguish, the abbot gently said, "Everything in this world has a beginning and an end. This body of ours is but a temporary vessel. No one escapes the impermanence of birth, aging, sickness, and death. We are all merely waiting our turn to return to the other shore. Crying won't bring the dead back. So why continue torturing yourself with grief?" Hearing this, the woman began to see things differently. She realized the wisdom in letting go, in accepting life's natural rhythm. This is what Buddhism calls applying right view to overcome suffering. 2. Guarding the mind against suffering, controlling the senses. To prevent floods, we build strong levees. To stop burglars, we lock our doors. These are physical forms of protection. In the same way, we must guard our minds from suffering. Buddha taught that 6 thieves constantly attack our peace: sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touch, and thoughts. These sense objects, known as the 6 sense bases, influence our inner world and can easily stir up unrest. An old man once came to a monk, complaining that his longtime friend had started speaking ill of him. The monk asked, "Did he say it to your face or behind your back?" The man replied, "He told someone else, and the word got around to me." The monk smiled and said, "If you didn't hear it yourself, treat it like the wind, it comes and goes. Why let it trouble your heart?" Later, the man returned, upset that his friend had posted something online that seemed like a dig at him. The monk asked, "Did you see the post yourself?" The man sighed, "I'm too old to use a phone. I just heard about it." The monk smiled again, "If you haven't seen it, don't bother with it." Eventually, the old man returned and the monk asked, "Is your friend still bad-mouthing you?" The man replied, "What friend? I haven't heard anything in a long time." The monk chuckled, "Good. That means you've learned to tune out harmful gossip." This story reminds us to practice mindfulness when receiving information. Not everything needs our attention. Let your awareness be the filter. This is how we guard the mind and keep suffering out. 3. Letting go to free yourself from suffering. For generations, people have passed down a simple yet profound saying: greed leads to ruin. It reminds us that those who cling too tightly to desires often bring misfortune upon themselves. And yet, when faced with wealth, status, beauty, and temptation, how many can truly remain unmoved? There is an old tale about a poor farmer who spent his entire life working for a wealthy landowner. When the farmer grew old and weak, no longer able to work the fields, the landowner, moved by compassion, decided to give him a gift, a piece of land to retire on. Even more generous, the landowner said, "Tomorrow, walk across the land as far as you can from sunrise to sunset. Wherever you walk, that land will be yours. But if you don't return to your starting point by nightfall, you'll receive nothing." The old man was overjoyed. At dawn, he set out eagerly, walking as fast as he could. By noon, the sun blazed down and exhaustion crept in, but the thought of owning a vast piece of land drove him forward. He told himself, "I've worked hard all my life. I might as well push a little more and leave something for my children and grandchildren." But in chasing more, he lost track of time. As the sun dipped behind the hills, he suddenly realized how far he had wandered. In panic, he turned back, running breathlessly toward his starting point. But it was too late. Darkness fell before he could return. Collapsing on the ground, the old man wept in despair. His greed had left him with nothing. So much of our suffering stems from this same kind of attachment. A little gain or loss can disturb our peace, steal our sleep, and drain our spirit. Even when we win, it often comes at a heavy cost. That is why letting go is a form of wisdom. Let go of what you can: attachments, regrets, comparisons, and the endless chase for more. Material things fade. Beauty ages. But a peaceful heart is something you can carry with you always. To let go is not to give up, it's to free yourself. 4. Letting go of suffering through patience. One day, as the Buddha was teaching the Dharma to his disciples, a Brahmin priest suddenly appeared and began insulting him. Yet, with the wisdom of an enlightened being, the Buddha responded not with anger, but with complete silence. Surprised by this calm reaction, the Brahmin asked, "Why do you remain silent while I insult you?" The Buddha gently replied, "If I offer you a gift, and you choose not to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man answered, "To you." The Buddha nodded and said, "Exactly. In the same way, if you hurl insults at me and I do not receive them, then those words remain with you." Hearing this, the Brahmin was deeply moved and ashamed. He knelt before the Buddha to ask for forgiveness. Sometimes, patience is mistaken for weakness. But true patience comes from inner strength and clarity. Imagine living with someone whose words are often harsh or impulsive. If we always react, conflict becomes inevitable. Emotions flare, voices rise, and relationships suffer. But if we pause, just for a moment, if we choose to step back instead of strike back, peace naturally returns. Patience doesn't mean suppressing your truth. It means choosing your response with wisdom, not ego. Because sometimes, to not respond is the most powerful response of all. 5. Letting go of suffering through avoidance. In this life, we are constantly surrounded by temptations: material wealth, sensual pleasures, fame, and power. These things, when desired excessively, can easily lead us astray. The deeper we sink into them, the harder it is to escape. We struggle, we drown, and in the end, we may lose everything: our peace, our family, and even our sense of self. So how do we free ourselves from this kind of suffering? The answer is simple: by walking away. Just like when we sense danger in the physical world, our instinct is to run or seek shelter. In the same way, we must learn to avoid the subtle traps of desire before they fully take hold. Material things, seductive pleasures, or social status may not always appear harmful on the surface, but when we start noticing the signs of attachment, it's time to step back. Avoidance, in this context, is not weakness, it is wisdom. It's the wisdom to know when to say, "No, this isn't worth my peace." This is how we let go of suffering, by knowing when to walk away before the damage is done. 6. Letting go of suffering through elimination. Imagine a drop of oil falling into a clear bowl of water. If we scoop it out quickly, the water remains clean. But if we hesitate, that small drop will soon spread and contaminate the entire bowl. Suffering works the same way. At first, it may seem small, just a passing irritation, a quiet resentment, a subtle craving. But if we ignore it, it grows. It spreads. And one day, it overwhelms us. That's why we must eliminate suffering at the root, while it's still small, before it gains momentum. Letting negative emotions linger is like letting oil spread through water. The longer we wait, the harder it is to undo the damage. Once suffering becomes deeply ingrained, even our best efforts may not be enough to fully cleanse the mind. Our thoughts become cloudy, and peace becomes harder to reach. So be swift. Be mindful. When suffering first appears, don't justify it, don't feed it. End it while it's still a spark, before it becomes a wildfire. 7. Letting go of suffering through spiritual practice. The Buddha gave us countless methods of practice to help us transform suffering. But the key is to choose the right path, one that suits our level of understanding and spiritual readiness. Every time we sincerely recite the Buddha's name, our greed, anger, and ignorance begin to fade. Meditation helps us master our own minds. And once the mind is steady and clear, happiness and suffering alike become no more than passing clouds in the sky. However, this transformation doesn't happen overnight. True practice requires time, consistency, and a deep commitment from the heart. It's not about doing it once or twice. It's about turning the practice into a way of life. When spiritual practice becomes second nature, the mind naturally grows peaceful. And when the mind is at peace, suffering has no place to remain. This is the power of practice. It doesn't just remove suffering, it reveals the pure, unshakable clarity that was already within you. Final thoughts. Dear friends, the Buddha once taught, all things begin with the mind. The mind is the source, the mind creates all. If we speak or act with a polluted mind, suffering will follow, like the wheel that follows the hoof of the ox. Our mind is the master. When the mind is pure, our words and actions will also be pure. When the mind is defiled, everything we touch will carry that same defilement. By applying these 7 principles, whether you're young or old, you can gradually free yourself from the burdens of worry, fear, and regret. You can live each day with a heart that is calm, clear, and truly at peace. Because in the end, peace is not something we find, it's something we uncover by letting go. There is a saying in folk wisdom, tears always flow downstream. These tears symbolize the unconditional love, hopes, expectations, and sacrifices that parents pour out for their children. They naturally flow downward, gently supporting and protecting their kids as they grow into adulthood. Then one day, those children become parents themselves, and the tears keep flowing downstream, continuing the cycle of love and sacrifice. Yet, the lifelong love and sacrifices of parents are sometimes not returned in kind by their children. Time keeps moving forward, but how often do those tears ever flow back upstream? That's why we still hear heartbreaking stories like, 10 children can't even care for one mother, or, raising a child costs millions, but reluctant to spend even a little on aging parents. These stories serve as painful reminders of the neglect and ingratitude some parents face despite their endless devotion. Now, let's take a moment to listen to some illustrative stories that shed light on the true value of family love and the importance of gratitude. Story 1: Reluctant to spend money on aging parents. When En Hung was 19, she got married and moved to the city with her husband to start a business. At first, life was full of struggles. After giving birth to a sickly baby girl, En Hung couldn't work, and the family's finances worsened. Her husband had to sell their small shop and take a job as a laborer. One day, En Hung's older brother suddenly showed up at her cramped rental home, accompanied by their parents. She happily welcomed them in, thinking he was just bringing their parents for a visit. But then her brother said, "The harvests have been bad lately, and things are tight back home. I can't support Mom and Dad anymore. From now on, they'll live with you. You only have one child, while I have 3. It's crowded there, so they probably won't be comfortable. You're their child too, why should I be the only one responsible?" En Hung's parents looked downcast, and she was stunned, unable to understand what was going on. "How can you say that? I can support Mom and Dad, but I can't accept that attitude from you," she said firmly. Before she could finish, her brother stood up and snapped, "Fine. Whether you want to take care of them or not is your business. If it's too much trouble, let them fend for themselves. I'm done here." Without even saying goodbye, he turned and walked away, ignoring their parents. Back home, their parents had lived with him in the countryside, where things were stable. His organic vegetable farm earned money, and the 3 kids were well cared for by their grandparents, who even helped with cooking and housework. But now, just because he was tight with money, he was dumping the responsibility onto En Hung. Understandably, En Hung was furious. From that day on, she cut ties with her brother and sister-in-law. They, in turn, didn't care about her or their parents anymore. After their parents moved to the city, En Hung rented a small room nearby for them to stay in. She took care of her child and her parents. Luckily, her husband treated his in-laws like his own parents, loving and attentive. Since their arrival, he worked overtime day and night to cover the family's expenses. A few months later, their parents said they missed home and wanted to visit. Although En Hung was reluctant, not wanting them to face the ungrateful children, she agreed. When they arrived, she saw the brothers' house was well furnished with a brand new TV, a large refrigerator, and a nice motorbike. It became clear that her brother and sister-in-law were not struggling financially, they just didn't want to spend money on their parents. Dear friends, no matter how many children parents have, they never complain. Yet, some children constantly grumble about having to care for their aging parents. Mothers stay up all night in hospitals watching over sick children, fearing seizures if the fever rises too high. But some children, after just a week of caring for a hospitalized parent, already complain of exhaustion and start shifting responsibility onto others or hiring help. Each of us should ask ourselves this: if you got a message that both your child and your parent were rushed to the emergency room, who would you worry about more? Most would say their child. One might think parents would feel hurt or resentful, but those who have lived a full life understand. As the saying goes, parents raise their children as vast as the sky and sea, children repay parents in the passing of days. Story 2. Spending $20,000 on raising a child but reluctant to spend $700 on aging parents. During the Vulan season, reading articles about nursing homes made me feel deeply sad about the future of our elderly. My family has 2 siblings, my older brother and me. Our father passed away nearly 15 years ago. My brother is married with 1 child and lives comfortably. He drives a nice car and lives in a house owned by his wife's parents, my sister-in-law's parents. Wherever he goes, he proudly talks about how smart and successful his child is. More than that, he boasts about spending 20 million VND every month on English lessons, skills training, and nutritious food for his child. But when it comes to caring for our aging mother, he and his wife completely ignore her. I'm an unmarried daughter who couldn't stand how they treated Mom, so I moved out nearly 10 years ago. I worked day and night, saved up, even borrowed money to buy a small apartment with the plan to bring Mom to live with me. But my brother and sister-in-law strongly opposed the idea. They feared that if I took care of Mom, I might later claim a share of the family property. Mom loves her children and her grandchild, but she still endures loneliness in that house. It seems she even transferred the house ownership to my brother, but they still aren't satisfied. One day when I visited Mom, she said, "They leave in the morning and don't come back until late. I cook for myself alone." My heart broke. I wanted to be with her more, but my job kept me busy, so I couldn't visit often. I suggested, "If you're too busy to care for Mom, why not put her in a nursing home? She would have meals, company, and friends, better than being alone at home with no one to talk to." I found a nursing home that costs over 15 million VND a month. I proposed we split the cost, 7 million each from my brother and me, plus Mom's pension, to fully cover it. When I told my brother, he said he'd ask his wife. She said, "I don't feel comfortable with Mom staying there, home is better." But I knew their real reason was they didn't want to spend the money. Suddenly having to pay 7 million a month. No way they'd agree. It made me very sad. Could it be that the old saying, "Tears flow downstream," really means this? Dear friends, a mother's heart has enough room to spread her wings and shelter 10 small chicks. But how much space does a mother's heart have in her children's hearts? In the past, Mom never said, "I'm busy," to her children. When she was eating and we needed something, she would put down her chopsticks and get it for us. In the middle of the night, no matter how tired, if she heard a child crying, she would open her eyes, comfort them, and hold them close. So why do children nowadays often say, "I'm busy," to their parents? Parents never hesitate to give everything to their children. So why are children now reluctant to spend money caring for their parents? When we lived with our parents, if we needed money for something, we only had to ask. They would do everything they could to provide for us. If they couldn't, they worried that other friends or neighbors might treat us better. Parents may eat quick meals just to get by, but children must have this and that to be healthy. Mothers might wear clothes passed down from their children, and fathers might wear worn-out shirts without complaint, but they never allow their children to wear torn clothes. No parent keeps track or calculates how much money they spent raising their children. Many grown children still borrow money from their parents for business ventures, and parents rarely ask for it back. Sometimes, they even offer to sell their land or house to help their children start a business. It seems parents' money is also the children's money, but the reverse rarely happens. How often do parents dare to ask their children directly, "Can you send some money to us?" Rarely. Many elderly parents, when their children visit and bring a few $100,000 as a gift, are moved to tears. Some children even save the money they give to their parents as a form of savings for themselves. But there are also many children who each send a small amount monthly. One supports their mother, another supports their father, but some, like the son in the previous story, are stingy when it comes to supporting their aging parents. Story 3, reluctant to hire help, daughter makes 70-year-old mother take care of grandchildren. My older sister works as a deputy manager at a foreign company with a pretty good income. She married late and had 2 children within 3 years. But due to conflicts with her mother-in-law, she firmly refused to ask her for help with the kids, even though her mother-in-law was still young and healthy and had just retired. You'd think with their income, they'd hire a housekeeper. But instead, my sister asked our mother, who is 70 years old, frail, and suffers from high blood pressure and diabetes, to come take care of her grandchildren. Out of love for her children and grandchildren, Mom reluctantly left my father and moved to the city to help watch the kids. She spent her days running around holding the babies, cooking porridge, making milk. Even a young person like me would get tired doing all that, let alone an elderly person. After 2 years of helping with the first child, Mom went back to the countryside. Then my sister announced she was pregnant again. I thought maybe this time she'd hire help, since Dad had just suffered a stroke. Thankfully, he recovered, but with serious after-effects. His hand is nearly paralyzed, and he walks with a limp. He needs Mom's help with everything, but because she didn't want to spend money on a helper, my sister once again relied on Mom. This time, both Mom and Dad had to live with my sister, since Dad can't take care of himself. Watching Mom care for Dad while also watching the kids, and Dad wandering aimlessly around the city house without friends, lonely and sad, I feel heartbroken. That's not even counting that my sister never hesitates to buy expensive food, clothes, or formula for her children, but ever since my parents moved in, I've never seen her buy them any supplements or milk. Dear friends, our lives will never be complete without the presence of our parents. It's no coincidence that nature gives each person both a mother and a father. Just like the earth needs both the sun and the moon, we need both parents to make a whole life, to become a complete person. Yet most of us only realize this when we grow up, often when our parents' time with us is already limited. Or worse, by the time we understand, it's too late. From the following heartfelt story, I hope all of us children will soon recognize the sacred and precious love of our parents, the immeasurable sacrifices they make, and learn to truly cherish them to the fullest. A heartfelt confession number 1. Parents give us their whole lives. One night, I went to sleep in the mountains around 11 p.m. It was snowing outside. I curled up in my blanket and picked up my alarm clock, only to realize it had stopped working. I'd forgotten to replace the battery. The cold outside made me reluctant to get up. So I called my mom. Mom, my alarm clock ran out of batteries. I have an important meeting at work tomorrow. Could you call me and wake me up at 6 a.m.? Okay, I got it, she said drowsily from the other end. The next morning, the phone rang while I was still curled up. On the other end, Mom said, "Get up, honey, you have a meeting today." I opened my eyes, looked at the clock, it was only 5:45 a.m., and grumbled, "Mom, didn't I say 6? I want to sleep a little longer. Why are you bothering me already?" Mom was silent. I hung up, washed my face, brushed my hair, and left the house. It was freezing, snow everywhere, white as far as the eye could see. At the bus stop, I stamped my feet to keep warm. Beside me were 2 elderly people with white hair. I overheard the old man say to the woman, "Look, she couldn't sleep all night, and this morning she woke me up so early. That's why we're waiting so long." 5 minutes later, the bus arrived. I hurried on board. The driver was a young man. After I got on, he drove off quickly. "Wait, driver. There are 2 old people still waiting in the cold. Why didn't you wait for them?" I asked. He turned around and smiled. "That's my parents. Today's my first day driving the bus. They came to see me off." Tears welled in my eyes. I looked back at a message from my dad. "Daughter, your mom couldn't sleep all night. She woke up early, worried you'd be late." Perhaps in this life, the only ones who can do everything for us without ever asking for anything in return are our parents. From the moment we cry out at birth until we grow up, we always receive the best from them. But how many of us understand the silent sacrifices they make just to see us smile? Instead of buying better things for themselves, they prioritize what's best for us. They put our happiness, comfort, and joy above all else. They give up personal hobbies to spend time with us. As children, we delighted in tasty meals, unaware that our parents sometimes went hungry so we could eat well. The gifts, treats, and toys they brought us filled us with joy, but behind them were endless hardships and savings. Our parents gave us life and raised us. When you were born, only your parents held you tenderly with happiness. Only they cared for your every meal and sleep. When you took your first steps, only they held your small hands and guided you. When you fell ill, only they stayed up nights beside you, even if it meant selling their last possessions. When you faced difficulties or when the world turned its back on you, your parents stood by to protect and comfort you. Time may change people's hearts, but it can never change the love parents have for you. They sacrifice everything for us, endure our sometimes unreasonable demands, and forgive all our mistakes with compassion. To parents, we are the greatest gift God gave them. Their greatest happiness is to see us grow up and live joyful, fulfilling lives. Parents give us everything. So, no matter what, don't complain or get upset with them. Instead, show them understanding, care, and share with them as much as you can. A heartfelt confession number 2. Your growth is the greatest happiness for parents. I remember when my grandmother was still alive, every Lunar New Year when her grandchildren gave her lucky money, she was very happy. For children who lived far away and couldn't come home, sending money back to her was something she proudly shared with the whole neighborhood. It wasn't that she was proud of having money, but proud that her children had succeeded, that they were filial and always cared for their parents. My own parents used to say to my siblings and me, "You focus on your studies and take care of yourselves. We only hope that when you grow up, you live honestly and decently, can support yourselves without having to send money or buy things for us." Though they said that, when we finished school and started working, bringing even small gifts home with our first paycheck brought tears to their eyes. Those tears weren't for the material value of the gifts, but because they saw that we had truly grown up, grown to love and care for them more, learned to be independent, strong, and stand on our own 2 feet. A child's growth is the most priceless, wonderful gift that any parent cherishes. Parents cry the day their child holds an acceptance letter from university in their hands. That's when their long-held dreams come true. Even knowing life will be tougher as their child studies at university, parents will do everything they can for their child's future. Parents cry the day their child finds a job they love and fits well after graduation. They cry the day their child finds their life partner and steps into a new chapter together. Those tears of joy come after decades of worry and care, seeing their child mature and settle down. For parents, seeing their child happy means peace of mind. So, every gift their child brings, whether material or spiritual, moves parents to tears. Those tears are tears of joy, witnessing every step, every bit of growth their child takes on life's journey. A heartfelt confession number 3, our time is plenty, but parents' time is not. There once was a young man who was the director of a large company. Today was his mother's birthday. Too busy to go home, he stopped by a big flower shop to buy flowers to send to her. As he got out of the car, he saw a little girl crying by the roadside. He approached her and gently asked why she was crying, wondering if he could help. The girl said it was her mother's birthday too, but she didn't have enough money to buy flowers for her. Hearing this, the man told her to pick the most beautiful flower for her mother, and he would pay for it. The girl chose the prettiest flower and thanked him. Meanwhile, the man told the florist to prepare a bouquet of 100 roses and send it to the address he gave. Then he offered the girl a ride home. Thrilled with both the flowers and the ride, the girl happily got in the car, thanking him. She pointed to the way to the cemetery. When they arrived, she got out and placed the rose on a grave that hadn't yet grown grass, saying, "Happy birthday, Mom." The man was shocked and confused about why the girl had brought him to a cemetery. The girl said softly, "My mom passed away, so this grave is my home." Hearing that, the man immediately thought of his own mother. He rushed back to the flower shop to ask if his bouquet had been sent yet. When told it hadn't, he took the bouquet back and drove straight home to his mother. Arriving, he hurried inside, saying, "Happy birthday, Mom. I love you so much." But no one was home. Neighbors told him that because she missed him so much, she had traveled to the city to see him. He returned to his mother's house. How long had it been since he last stayed for a meal with her, or spent a night under the same roof? Only then did he realize he needed to do more for his mother before it was too late. Those who have experienced loss and faced the departure of loved ones will treasure even more the value of each day spent together. Time is ruthless, it takes so much from us. How much longer do we have with our parents? We simply do not know. So why be indifferent? Why not give our parents warm and sweet love? Never let them wait anxiously, worrying about you. Never let the day come when they leave this life without sharing a meal or a phone call with you. By then, even if you want to repay their love, they won't be there. Many of us are so caught up in careers and our own families, striving for success and status, that we forget our parents have quietly grown old. When we visit home and see their gray hair, wrinkled hands, and worried frowns during bad weather, we suddenly understand the urgency to show them our gratitude before tragedy strikes. So don't think that earning a lot of money or buying them a big house, fancy clothes, and plenty of food is the only way to repay their love. Your growth, your care, and your attention are the greatest joy, the gift parents long for, and a happiness no money can buy. Dear friends, there is a Jewish proverb that goes, "When parents give something to their children, the children smile. But when children give something to their parents, the parents cry." When we were little, everything our parents gave us brought us boundless joy, yet we did not realize that behind those gifts were their sacrifices, their careful savings, and their love. When we grow up, whatever we bring back to our parents, from a university diploma, to our first paycheck, to a new shirt for mom or a pack of coffee for dad, moves them to tears of happiness. In the end, only parents love us unconditionally. The rest of the world outside demands conditions before offering love. But as children, do we truly understand this? The more we grow, the less time we seem to spend with our parents. And as we mature, it is also when our parents begin to age and grow frail. Home is the place to return to, a sanctuary of peace for every weary soul. Yet, when our parents are no longer here, we realize even the safest haven is not forever. So, I sincerely hope every child will never be indifferent to their parents. Take every moment you still have with them to shower them with the sweetest and warmest love. Thank you all for listening to these heartfelt words.